Brandon Beane and the Buffalo Bills front office decide to double dip at defensive tackle. And for the first time this free agency, I have to admit, I got some questions. Welcome to Believers Talk. My name is Joe, and welcome to yet another free agency edition of Believers Talk, where we go over every single Buffalo Bills free agent signing during the 2020 free agency period. And before we do that, however, guys, I want to say welcome to Believers Talk. My name is Joe. If you're new to this channel and you haven't quite yet hit that subscribe button, guys, hit that subscribe button for continual Buffalo Bills updates and Buffalo sports. So hit that subscribe button. After you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. YouTube notifies you when we put out new content. Consistently putting out new content today. I think this is my 8th video of the day. A busy day for the Buffalo Bills to come off the back end of a day where we trade for Stefon Diggs. So 2 busy days for the Buffalo Bills at the start of free agency. And guys, free agency officially starts tomorrow at 4 p.m. So that's when all these deals become official. Right now, they're all in principle, but when you get these principal deals, you know that they're 99% of the time they're going to happen. So that's why we're reporting on it right now. And in this episode, we're going to talk about Vernon Butler, defensive tackle. So let me know in the comment section what you think about the Vernon Butler signings. Guys, I have to admit, this is the first time in this free agency, in the 2020 free agency period, where I'm beginning to ask some questions. I have my doubts as to whether or not this is a good move for the Buffalo Bills. And we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about why I have some issues with this move. Some of you might have the same issues. So again, let me know in the comment section what you think about the Buffalo Bills signing defensive tackle Vernon Davis. Again, earlier today, we hear that the Buffalo Bills cannot keep Jordan Phillips. Jordan Phillips signs with the Arizona Cardinals. So the Bills go out and they don't just get one defensive tackle with the signing of Quentin Jefferson, which we just did a player profile video about, but they get a second one here with Vernon Butler, defensive tackle. And you know you can't go more than 2 videos without mentioning the fact that he was a former Carolina Panther player. That's the case here for Vernon Butler, was drafted by the Carolina Panthers in 2016. So Vernon Butler is a defensive tackle listed at 6'4", 325 pounds, will be 26 years old at the start of the 2020 season. So another young guy that we can bring in, that defensive tackle, who's just going to continue to help with that defensive tackle rotation. It's going to mean there's a lot of possibilities at that defensive tackle now with Quentin Jefferson and Vernon Butler. You talk about Ed Oliver, you talk about Star Lotulelei, you talk about Harrison Phillips. This might put Harrison Phillips on the bubble, to be honest with you. I mean, if you look at the guys that Buffalo just signed, the 4 guys might be Vernon Butler, Quentin Jefferson, Star Lotulelei, who just restructured his contract, and Ed Oliver. So that leaves guys like Harrison Phillips on the outside looking in. I know that Harrison Phillips is a fan favorite, so some fans might not like to hear that, especially with Harrison Phillips coming off a season where he was injured for most of the year. Don't you want to see what you have in your 3rd round draft pick from 2 years ago? Again, I'm just saying that this might be the beginning of the end of Harrison Phillips' time in Buffalo. I mean, he might have to work for a spot, but then again, with a 55-man roster instead of 53 with the new CBA, maybe they add a 5th man to that defensive tackle rotation. So Vernon Butler went to Louisiana Tech University, and prior to 2016, the last Louisiana Tech player to go in the 1st round of the NFL draft was in 1999. So he adds his name to a short list of players who went to Louisiana Tech and were high draft picks. Again, drafted in the 1st round, 30th overall by the Carolina Panthers in the 2016 NFL draft. And in 2016, he signs a 4-year, $8.39 million contract with the Carolina Panthers. On May 2nd of 2019, the Panthers declined his 5th-year option. So looking at Vernon Butler's career, you're talking about 52 games, 9 starts. However, all 9 starts came in that 2019 NFL season. So you look at his career stats and then you look at his 2019 stats. A lot of the stats come from this most recent season, but his career stats for his career in 4 years, he has 2 pass deflections, 3 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, 8 sacks, 77 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, and 18 QB hits. In 2019, like I said, all 9 of his starts were in 2019, so you'll see a lot of the stats I just mentioned here for 2019. 2019 played in 14 games, started 9 games for the Carolina Panthers, has those 3 forced fumbles, 6 sacks, so obviously that's the most of his career in one season, 6 sacks, 32 tackles, 7 tackles for a loss, and 8 QB hits. So a pretty significant jump in 2019, getting those starting reps for the Carolina Panthers and making the most out of them. And so that's a good thing. Those are all good signs if you're a Buffalo Bills fan. However, when it comes to Vernon Butler, and this is where my questions begin. He signed for some pretty big money. And if you take a look at the money that we signed Quentin Jefferson for and Vernon Butler for, I realized that we got 2 players instead of 1. But we could have re-signed Jordan Phillips. I don't understand why we use these 2 players here because, again, defensive tackle is now becoming a crowded room. There's no saying who's going to be left out. If that's Harrison Phillips, how we're going to use all 4 of these guys, or even 5 of these guys, in a significant role this season when you could put Jordan Phillips in there and you had the same 4 guys you had, well, 3 of the 4 guys you had last season, then you're adding Harrison Phillips to that. I'm just not sure if this move makes sense, or at least both the moves put together of Quentin Jefferson and Vernon Butler makes sense, giving that information about Jordan Phillips and the potential of re-signing Jordan Phillips. Maybe Coach McDermott, maybe Brandon Beane know that's a scheme thing why Jordan Phillips did well and feel like Vernon Butler and Quentin Jefferson can do better with the scheme that the Buffalo Bills have. Maybe Leslie Frazier was in on that conversation as well, being the defensive coordinator, talking about how he likes Vernon Butler, how he likes Quentin Jefferson, and that might be the case. But we talked about a little bit in my most recent player profile video with Quentin Jefferson about his character issues. If you want to talk about character issues, if you want to talk about some culture question marks that you could have for players, you got to look at Vernon Butler. Vernon Butler has not been the most upstanding citizen while he's been in the NFL, at least not on the field. Off the field, not so many legal problems, which is a good thing. But on the field, he has not lived up to the culture that I believe Coach McDermott and Leslie Frazier and Brandon Beane have brought to the Buffalo Bills. So I don't understand what the Bills are doing from that end of things, from a culture side. Let's talk about Vernon Butler as far as what he's done in his career on the field, as far as, you know, not showing that discipline that you need to play in the NFL. So in 2018, he was fined twice by the NFL, and he also got, in both these games, got major penalties that, really hurt his team. In 2018, he had unsportsmanlike versus Vance McDonald when they played the Pittsburgh Steelers. They got into it a little bit, and he got a little unsportsmanlike, got a little too rough, and got a fine for that, got a huge penalty for that in that game. That really swung that game, if you remember that game. And then he did get roughing the passer penalty versus Ryan Fitzpatrick. We know how touchy the NFL has been recently with those roughing the passer penalties. So I'm not too upset about that one. I get that. Sometimes those happen when you're talking about 8 QB hits, 6 sacks last season. Sometimes you get there a little late. You think that you lay off them a little bit. You don't throw them to the ground. At least you don't think you do. The ref throws a flag. You're automatically fined if you get flagged for roughing the passer, unless the league decides otherwise. So those are the 2 fines in 2018. But my biggest problem just happened back in December of 2019. In December of 2019, the Carolina Panthers were playing the Indianapolis Colts, and Vernon Butler got into a fight with Jack Doyle from the Indianapolis Colts, and he ends up punching Jack Doyle in the face or in the helmet, and he gets ejected from that game. And that was just in December of 2019. We talked about how Quentin Jefferson got into a fight with the Jacksonville Jaguars back in 2018, and now we're picking up a guy who in 2019 got ejected for a punch on Jack Doyle against the Indianapolis Colts. Again, these are things that the Buffalo Bills, that Coach McDermott for the past 3 years has been preaching against, that has been, talking about he wants guys with good character, guys who are good both in and out of the locker room, good building blocks for this Buffalo Bills team. And that's not what you're bringing in here. You're bringing in a good player. I'm not saying you're not bringing in a good player, and we'll talk about the contract in a second, because again, we have some issues there as well. But you talk about a guy who just got into, ejected from a game, which you want to talk about a distraction to a team. You want to talk about putting a team behind the 8 ball in the middle of a game. Talk about getting ejected. You get ejected from a game like this, and it can be the difference between winning and losing. And do you want to put that much pressure on the rest of your team, the rest of your defensive tackles? And what does that mean when you look at a guy like that, like a Vernon Butler, from another teammate's perspective, and you see him playing selfish football? Because that's what that is. That's selfish football. That's only caring about yourself. And so I'm not sure if they made the right decision here signing Vernon Davis by the culture standpoint, by the standards that Coach McDermott set. I just don't know if Vernon Butler hits those standards. And again, he could say what he wants over a phone call. He could talk to you, Brandon Beane or Coach McDermott or Leslie Frazier and talk about how he's cleaned up his act. You know, it could have been a two-way street where Jack Doyle was pushing back and it just got a little out of hand. But you have to be able to keep your composure on the field, and that's at least 2 times where Vernon Butler got penalized for not being able to keep his composure on the field. I'm just not sure if that's the kind of culture that Sean McDermott wants in the Buffalo Bills locker room. Now we talk about the contract. And like I said, if you take the contract of Vernon Butler, you take the contract of Quentin Jefferson, and you add those together, I think we could have signed Jordan Phillips and still been okay with the salary cap. So the Buffalo Bills signed Vernon Butler to a 2-year, $16 million deal, with $9.3 million of that being guaranteed. Now, Jordan Phillips had received more years in his contract with the Arizona Cardinals, and that's where they might have not been able to come through with a contract with Jordan Phillips. I think he got 4 years with the Arizona Cardinals, where both of these deals were 2-year deals. But you look at the money alone and you say, why couldn't we sign Jordan Phillips for that amount of money? And it kind of leaves you scratching your head a little bit. Again, the Buffalo Bills signed Vernon Butler to a 2-year, $16 million deal. $9.3 million of that is guaranteed. That's a pretty big number. And when you look at the Buffalo Bills salary cap space, it's beginning to get a little less comfortable. Let me say that. We're beginning to get close to that mark of not having enough cap space to re-sign some of our bigger name guys that are coming up on contract extensions. Talking about Tre'Davious White, of course. Talking about Matt Milano. And, you know, with the re-signing of Jordan Poyer, maybe Matt Milano is the odd man out. That's something that we definitely have to consider. Not sure the Buffalo Bills, especially with these most recent contracts, are going to be able to re-sign some of those big name guys that you and me all love as fan favorites here at Bills Mafia for our Buffalo Bills. But the Buffalo Bills do sign Vernon Butler. Again, a good player, 6 sacks last year, can definitely add some help to that defensive tackle room and help this Buffalo Bills team move forward in the 2020 NFL season. Hopefully be a part of something special, and hopefully not get in trouble on the field and not cost this team at the end of the day. So go ahead, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Vernon Butler. Again, out of all the moves we've made so far, this one has me scratching my head the most. I'm okay with the Stephon Diggs trade. I'm okay with all the signings up to this point. And it probably starts with the Quentin Jefferson free agent pickup, but then it continues here with the Vernon Butler pickup. Again, pick up back-to-back defensive tackles. So we'll definitely have a replacement for Jordan Phillips, but is it the type of replacement that we actually want? So again, let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Again, thank you guys for joining me. If you're not subscribed to Believers Talk, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Today was a crazy day, and we had you covered all day right here on Believers Talk. So again, hit that subscribe button. After you hit that subscribe button, you hit that notification bell. Give me a thumbs up to let me know that you like the content, and leave a comment what you think about the Buffalo Bills signing Vernon Butler to a 2-year, $16 million deal. I look forward to bringing you more updates as free agency goes on. I look forward to talking to you all soon. Until I do, go Bills.